Will recasting save Games Workshop? That's what we're going to take a look at in this vlog. That's the question that I'm asking before I turn it over to you guys in the comments, because there was a very interesting comment on a previous vlog from last week. We were asking a couple of questions. Hey, Games Workshop, the development cycle, being a 40K enthusiast, you can never please me. You release things too slow and I want more models. You release things too fast, I can't keep up. You release things in limited edition, I get pumped up, but then there's the eternal taunt of FOMO, missing out. And we've been exploring this idea of the Games Workshop development cycle is, I'm going to get you to pay a couple of $100 for a tank, but I'm also going to make it extremely super limited release, and you're never going to get it again. So it's kind of like a Kickstarter. It's kind of like those Kickstarters where they're like, we want all your money up front, and just to let you know, this will never be released to retail. So you either get in on everything or you don't. Oh yeah, we're selling Season 1, Season 2, X-Pack 1, token upgrades, custom dice. If you don't get in, no retail, you're out. And you go in and you're like, all right, $50 core box. And then next thing you know, you fill out the pledge manager and it's like a black hole and you're in for like $500 or $800. 40K is like you're in for a few thousand potential dollars. The days of slowly building your army, I don't know if those exist as much anymore, because they really have not only the duality of compressing the development cycle and releasing stuff fast, a lot of it is limited release. So that's the narrative that built in. And one of the questions was this idea of recasting, because I don't know, you release a model, I don't know how it's going to play out in the rules necessarily. And given how fast the meta changes, and that's before we even get into the fact that to equate Games Workshop with actual rules, nothing's play tested, development cycle is kind of back and forth. There's no balance because they don't want to balance it. And I'm not saying it should be balanced because it's a narrative game, but when you're constantly injecting new stuff and it's limited release, it creates some very, very powerful swing dynamics. So if I'm jumping in for a good amount of money on a release, how is it going to be at the time? But it's not even like, all right, look, a cycle of edition is 3 years and a codex army list is about a year and a half. So I get this purchase now. I don't miss out on FOMO. I'm good for a year and a half. Like, no, the next White Dwarf, the next annual, the next FAQ, the next something blows it out. That's kind of hard. So this opened into this idea of recasting, taking those miniatures and this whole underground community that has developed to answer the needs of 40K that Games Workshop is not going to answer. And the parallels to the Battletech community, some similarities there. So let's kind of jump into that now that we've framed it, and then we'll turn it over to the comments for you guys. If you've been following my channel, you know that I love the game Battletech. Maybe you're even a Battletech player yourself. And I'm going to condense 35 years. I've got my 35-year playpin. I've been playing for those years. I wear that with pride and, when we play it. But in that time, Battletech, the miniatures, up until recently, this is the golden age of Battletech. Up until recently, the miniatures were literally very 1980. Literally 1980. So you were buying medals, you were buying sculpts that were old miniatures in terms of design. I personally liked how they looked. I mean, it was the 80s future. I'm still waiting for that future to arrive. I'm ready to go at any moment. But a complaint was like, hey, Battletech guys, Battletech crew, release some new miniatures. You've got Mech Warrior Online. You've got the games. You've got sculpts that look like amazing war robots. Give me those. And, of course, now Catalyst, we have the release. The sets are coming on. We've got the game of Armored Combat. We have that. But that gap in a long time has been accelerated by 3D printers. I just had someone zap me off a ton of 3D printed mechs from the Mech Warrior Online, from the games, from some custom stuff. And that looks amazing because at the time, the Battletech community support did not exist. People wanted this, so 3D printers made it happen. And there's a whole entire legitimate community. It's not even like underground, because in BattleTech you can make your own mechs, customize, and even within the official mechs there's a lot of variants. There's a lot of print and play, and that is accelerating. Well, is that where Games Workshop is going to go? Now, a number of years back, there was this whole idea of China Forge, where there were certain sites online, and I should have like disclaimers flashing. Fritz does not endorse this. Fritz does not condone this. Every IP is owned by Games Workshop, but we're just kind of throwing some stuff out there, asking the questions. When we were looking at that a number of years ago, people would joke China Forge. So you can get Forge World stuff, $1,000 worth of Forge World. We can get China Forge for $50 plus a little bit of shipping, and you put them side by side, and they look great, and they're the regular kits. I did have a chance, again, like disclaimers flashing, back in the day to see some China forged armies. Now, this was under the old point structure, but I was seeing for hard boys, or ard boys if we want to pronounce it, 4,000 or 5,000 point armies. At the time, big, massive armies, and a few of them were entirely China forged. There is no way, absolutely no way you could know the difference. So we started to see it accelerate back then, but now with 3D printing, with scanning, with recasts, and some of the recast techniques even being very sophisticated, but more and more people jumping into that, more and more underground, more and more hobby. If something is limited release, it's cool, it's all good. I'll pick it up on the recast. So this way, if the rules change, or you nuke it, or you take it away, or Games Workshop doesn't FAQ it, and it's in limbo out there, I'm not out $65, $70. I'm out, $3, $4, $5. Is that enough to threaten the Games Workshop community? I don't believe so. I mean, certainly it's going to be a small subset. It might take over more of a market share. Games Workshop is doing its best through YouTube to pull stuff in. We see with Astartes and some of the other amazing animators, they've now, rightly so, pulled them in on their team and are now going to control that IP and control that development. We see other areas where they're bringing in the specialist games, pulling that in, apps and everything. I mean, they're a machine. Certainly they're a very, very fine-tuned machine. There's no way that it's going to unseat in terms of recast and the China Forge situation. But I do see it growing more and more underground. I do see it growing more and more as a possibility. And I have to wonder just how long they will be able to extract this massive pay policy of pay now or miss out.